Hi, this is Penni Z, librarian from Kent District Library's Cascade Branch. And it's 6:30 on Tuesday, so I am talking about what we're reading. Tonight's guest is, I'm going to call you Kenneth. Kenneth Parrish, who is right now the treasurer of Kent County. I know him as Ken Parrish, my former softball teammate on the, you guessed it, Buccaneers. Okay, everybody's going to groan now. Ken was really good, and Ken was really sweet and not telling me how bad I was on a regular basis because I was awful. So Ken's joining me tonight. Ken, what are you reading?
Well, first of all, Penny, thank you for having me on. And yes, I go by Ken. Kenneth is only if I'm signing a letter or a check. But I'm really happy to be with you tonight. And the book that I'm reading is actually Michael Connelly's Two Kinds of Truth.
Okay. Now, I have to admit something right off the bat, Ken, because I know how popular Michael Connelly is. People come in the library and check him out by the dozens, and I have never read a Michael Connelly book.
Well, then you hopefully after this conversation you will.
Yeah, so tell me all about it. Why should I?
Well, Michael Connelly has written a very lengthy series of books starring the main character who is Harry Bosch, Bosch. And his full name is Hieronymus Bosch, named after the 15th or 16th century painter. And he plays a detective for the City of Los Angeles Police Department. And he is kind of a rough and tumble kind of guy. He has very, very clear lines of black and white. And he is just a very interesting character. He had served as in the Vietnam War on behalf of the United States, representing the United States, and then after that went into police work. So Michael has written somewhere around 20 or 25 different books with Harry Bosch as the main character. This particular one is much later in the series, where at this point in his life, Harry has actually retired from the LAPD twice to become a private investigator. But then he missed being on the law side of things, and so he actually ends up with starts out as an unpaid reserve officer with the San Fernando Police Department, and he is their man for homicides and robberies and those sorts of things. And he's not getting paid a dime. He's doing it for the love of the job. And it's just the way Michael writes. It's very complex, but not overly wordy. I don't like a book that takes me 25 hours to read. I prefer a book that's keeps me engrossed, and I don't feel like I've had to really work at it.
Right.
Some books are so heavy with language, and some of it's wonderful, beautiful language, but I prefer a little bit faster paced book, and I found that he writes a very good pace for, at least for me. So in this particular book, Harry is involved with two cases. One on behalf of the San Fernando Police Department, where they are investigating a murder of two pharmacists, a father and son, that turns out to be kind of related to the underworld. And then he's also involved in a case that has kind of come back to haunt him from his days in LAPD, where a murder that he helped get convicted and put on death row has a claim that he is innocent and that supposedly DNA evidence can exonerate him. And Harry's obviously concerned that if one of his cases gets overturned for based on evidence, that it'll make all of the cases he ever solved questionable, and it will make him and his whole career questioned. So he basically takes it upon himself to try to resolve that murder, to confirm that that guy did it, and how are they making it look like he didn't do it. So so he's got two cases going on that he's working as well. He's a single father of a college aged daughter, and so there's some interaction with her, although as she's gone off to college, the interaction is less and less. But I find them very engrossing. I've read roughly 20 of the books. And just think they're really interesting and really recommend them. He's also known for, he wrote the book that is the basis for the movie, The Lincoln Lawyer, which starred Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that was good.
That's a whole nother line of books that he has written with about the lawyer Mickey Haller. And then, of course, to cross-pollinate, Mickey Haller and Harry Bosch are half brothers who didn't know each other until they were adults. So Harry. So
do they show up in each other's books?
They do, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he's developed a couple other characters that have their own much smaller series, but he interweaves them all back and forth. So I always have a book to read that's going to be interesting. So
yeah, I have a question for you though, because library patrons come in and ask me this about these kind of series. Do you have to read them all in order?
No, you do not. He does a good job of pointing out anything historical that is necessary for the story. So he really, each one really does stand on its own.
So this is Michael Connelly, just to repeat, and it's the Harry Bosch series.
Yep. They call him on the book a Bosch novel, and this one is Two Kinds of Truth.
Do you like those better than the brother books?
What's that?
Do you like those books better than the ones about his brother, or about the same?
I haven't actually read any of the Mickey Haller books so far. I've read 3 or 4 where Mickey Haller comes into the Harry Bosch books, but I haven't gone back yet. I figure once I get through all of the Bosch books, I'll do the Mickey Haller and then a couple of the other minor series. There's actually Amazon Prime has a series called Bosch, which are based on these books and this whole storyline as well. That's actually how I learned about it. I saw the first season on Amazon Prime, and it prompted me to go back and start reading all of his books.
Oh, how cool! Now, would you say they're pretty? They follow the plot in the books pretty closely, or
pretty closely? They actually will follow. One season may actually come from 2 or 3 books, and so and there are some changes. Just I think for literary license, if you will, that TV. You kind of want wrap up endings that you may not necessarily have in a book. But there's now 6 seasons of that out, and I just find it engrossing.
Oh, fun. I bet my husband Mike would love that.
I think he probably would.
Ken has played on the team. Mike has played on the team with Ken and I too.
Yes.
So we're softball buddies.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk about a book briefly too, Ken. And
please.
This is one that is kind of like a doorstop. It's huge and thick, and there's a lot of them, but everyone's heard of it now. Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I read this because the books first came out 20 years ago, I feel like. And I should have researched that and know exactly the number, but it feels like around there. And I read them that long ago, and was one of those little book nerds who was, when everybody's watching on HBO, was going, I know it's going to happen. I know it's gonna... And knew all. So that was fun for me. They did that's another one. They did such a great job adapting that book to HBO that, my husband watched it. A lot of other people watched it who hadn't read the book and loved it. And now we were going on a long trip to the UP to look at the leaves and everything. And I said, let's listen to the books because you really like the series and I really like the book too. So we put them in and it was so amazing. The person who reads it is a British actor.
Mm.
And I saved his name here so I could go back and check. Roy Dotrice, and I might be saying that name wrong. But he actually did cameos in some of the TV shows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so and he reads and he does such a great job with the voices and he gives like little British Isles accents to everybody. And it was so much fun to listen to and fun for Mike too because he'd seen the series and hadn't, and it's different. And it's not as, because it's a pretty adult book. I will say that right off. But it's easier to read about something like that than to see it.
Oh, you mean like the Red Wedding?
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't even watched the series and I know about the Red Wedding. So
Because it's one thing to just read, he slit her throat. It's another thing to watch someone get their throat slit.
yes,
A lot of it is in your imagination, so it's not as horrifying or graphic.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun. It took me a long time to actually read that. A lot of my science fiction nerds and fantasy nerds said, you should read that. And I was like, it's so big. It's so long.
How many volumes is that?
Well, he stopped. It's 5, but he stopped because he stopped before the shows ended.
Oh, okay.
So I had to learn what happened to all these characters that you love. I mean, you start out with this family when they're all kids, and you start with a little girl who's tomboys and plays with swords to take her to, she's a hired assassin.
Oh.
I mean, and all these different kids go off in different directions and that's just part of it. There's also them fighting for the thrones.
Okay.
But then he didn't finish it. He just leaves you hanging. And he finished it on the TV series. And if you're an avid reader like me, you were so enraged that
Is he going to go back and do the book versions or not?
He keeps saying he's going to, but I mean, it's been a long time. This guy's not getting any younger, and he's not the healthiest guy.
Well, yeah, I've seen him on TV.
But that was really fun for a trip to listen to. So I like to
that sounds great.
Good readers. Yeah. So please join us next Tuesday at 6:30. Ken, I can't imagine anyone can top you. You were fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I miss seeing you on the softball field.
I miss seeing you and Mike as well, and hopefully we can catch up soon.
And Ken Parrish has been treasurer for many years. You will not see him on the ballot this year, though. He's not coming here looking for your vote because he's retiring this year, which I'm sure we're going to miss you a lot in Kent County.
Well, thank you. I will miss everybody as well.
Well, nice to see you. Good night.
Good night, Penny.